I'm a lover of all romance, whether it's historical, paranormal, contemporary, fantasy, you name it.
Hi, everyone. It's the Book Cougars, two middle-aged women on the hunt for a good read. I'm Emily.
And I'm Chris, and we are joined today with a special guest, Leslie of She Reads Romance.
Hi, everybody.
Welcome. We're so happy that you could be here with us today to talk romance.
Yes.
I appreciate you guys having me. I was so excited to hear that romance was your theme of the year.
So you've brought some fun romances you want to share with a little bit of summer reading in mind, right?
I have, yes, on She Reads Romance Books. I love to help either new readers or readers of the genre find the best books worth reading, either through my book list or on the podcast. And I just recently put out my must-read summer romance books for 2024, and there's a lot of good ones coming out this summer. So happy to dive into those with you guys today. Should I jump in with my first one?
Please.
Yeah.
Okay. So, first one, I've actually read it, so I can say I loved it. It's one of my favorites of the year. So, hands down, recommend it. It's called The ROM-COMMERS by Katherine Center. It comes out on June 11th. This will be a must read for anyone who likes sort of an office romance, forced proximity, trope romance, and a really great slow burn. It is about our heroine, Emma, who is a rom-com screenwriter, but she hasn't really gotten into the business because for the last 10 years, she has had to be a full-time caretaker for her father, who has several health issues, but she gets sort of a chance of a lifetime to work with a really famous screenwriter who's one of her idols, who has written a rom-com, but it's terrible. And so she's supposed to go and meet with him and hope and rewrite it. And she basically ends up schooling him on this is what the rom-com genre is all about and why you should love it. And they end up falling in love, and it's really fantastic.
What a
Nice.
great idea. I love that.
That is going to be our pick for the She Reads Romance Books book club for July. We're super excited to talk with Catherine. And it's really just like a love letter to anyone who loves romance or rom-com movies. So highly recommend that one.
Very cool.
Fun.
Love that. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Now, for your book club, is that open to everyone, or do they have to be members, or
It is
how
a
do your book clubs work?
It is a membership. We read one romance book a month where we meet twice a month, actually, one to talk about the book together. And then we meet a second time with the author of the book to ask them all of our burning questions about it, which is really exciting because you normally have this sort of disconnect reading a book from the author, but to have that opportunity to really like get to know them as a person and all the details that you want to know about, it's exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
sounds
it's
fun.
exciting for the author too when people have actually read the book. So that's so nice.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So June 11th, I think is a popular day for must-read summer romance books because another one releasing that day, which I also read, fantastic. It's called One Last Summer by Kate Spencer. This is a romance that's going to take you to the beautiful lakes of New Hampshire if you want to travel there on a staycation, sort of reading this book. But it is about the heroine Clara, who is basically forced to take a sabbatical from work because her boss says you are experiencing burnout. So she's forced to go spend a week with her friends at the summer camp that she used to go to as a kid. But she hasn't been going to this reunion every summer for the last couple of years. But she gets to go. And when she's there, she finds out that the owners of the summer camp are actually going to sell the summer camp. So she takes it as an opportunity to relive all those memories that she had when she went to summer camp as a kid, like making friendship bracelets and having relay races and all of those things. So definitely a fun book if you want to reminisce about your youth at summer camp, or if you've been struggling with burnout and you want to commiserate with someone else who is struggling with that same thing. It was a fantastic read.
Sounds like fun. That's so funny. I just read Ruth Reichl's The Paris novel, and part of the through line on that was her boss came to her and said, "You need to take a break. I'm sending you away." And I'm like, that'd be nice. And here's another novel that's doing that. That's so fun.
And it kind of gives you this look at like looking at what you thought your life would be like as a kid and how it's sort of different now. I really liked that element of the book.
Yeah.
But another one that now comes out July 11th, it's called Play Along by Liz Tomforde. I wanted to highlight this one because she's a popular indie published author. And it's about a baseball player. And I think baseball's just sort of the sport of summer, right? This is actually her fourth book in the Windy City series, but you can read this as a standalone. And it sounds so fun. So it's kind of an office romance too, but it's one of those tropes. I would say it's like the oops wedding trope where they end up getting married in Vegas and wake up realizing, oh my gosh, why do we have wedding rings on our fingers? Isaiah is a shortstop for a Major League Baseball team, and he's always had this crush on their trainer named Kennedy, but she has always been engaged. But then she walks into the training room one day and her engagement ring is gone. And so I guess the team ends up traveling to Vegas for some reason. And again, they wake up and realize they're married. And so the book is about them sort of having a go at this marriage because she needs to make it seem real so she can keep her job. And then sort of another throw into the relationship is that her stepbrother also happens to be a professional baseball player who's sort of like Isaiah's nemesis. So that's going to, I think, have some interesting shenanigans to that story. So
nice. So Leslie, it's Windy City. I'm assuming that is Chicago.
Chicago, yes.
Now, is it Cubs or White Sox? Do they say? Do you know?
It's not a known major league team. I forget what she calls her baseball team.
Okay.
But I
wonder if it's
but
like
that would be an interesting pick. Like which one?
I know. She could like lose readership or gain readership over that.
That is true. That is true.
On the edge of her seat. I gotta know which one.
Yes. Okay, another book. So I think summer reading to me also is just picking a book by a favorite author you love or a favorite romance trope and just sort of sinking into it, right? And so another book coming out June 11th, I told you that was a big day, is Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. And I think, Chris, I think we said that you had read Bride. I loved Bride. I love all of her books. She's just a phenomenal writer. But this is one in back to her sort of enemies to lovers, which is one of my favorite tropes in STEM books that she writes. But it also has a secret relationship sort of trope to it, where Rue, I guess, is a biotech engineer, and she works for this food science startup company that is now being threatened with a corporate takeover that is led by the hero of the story named Eli. So there are these enemies because her company is about to have this takeover, but they have this instant chemistry and decide to sort of have this secret fling, and it's pretty much just going to end whenever the result of the takeover happens. And so we'll see what comes of it. And I think Ali actually said this is probably one of her steamiest books that she's written, but I love her work, so that's on my list.
I call it sounds stressful to me, but okay.
Could be, yes.
That's why you need the sex relief, right? You need that,
exactly.
the physical release.
Right. And I think that's the sneaking around piece. I think will be lots of fun to see how they manage that. So, yeah. One more book to talk about. This will have to wait until August 6th to read. It is called The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. This is going to be her latest queer romance. She hasn't written a book in over a year. I think because last year she was busy with the Red, White, and Royal Blue movie that came out, but this is going to be her new romance. And I love it for summer because the two characters of the story go on this epic European food and wine tour throughout France, Spain, and Italy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I can't be there in person in the summer, I will, go along with them in this book reading about it. But Theo and Kit, they, I guess, were childhood friends, became more, but then they broke up right before they were supposed to go on this European food tour. and they both realize 4 years later that their voucher for the trip is about to expire. So independently, they both decide, oh, right, I better take it. And so they meet up again on this train and so go on this train while trying to sort of find their way back to one another, but also having these sort of bets with one another to see if they can, who they can flirt with and what's going to come of it. So it sounds really interesting. I loved Red, White, and Royal Blue, and I hope that this is another great one by Casey McQuiston.
That's great. Wow.
Very cool. Sounds like great picks.
Yeah, we probably should have said at the beginning that we will put all this information down below. So don't panic if you were furiously trying to write things down. We will have that
Right.
information down below. That sounds great. So you mentioned that that enemies to lovers is one of your favorite tropes. Would you say it is your favorite? Are you willing to commit that heavily?
I will commit to that. I usually say that that is my favorite. There's just something about the tension and, you know, chemistry between characters in that trope that I love.
Yeah, I get it. I like
Very
that
cool.
too.
Yeah.
Have you guys found a favorite trope that you're kind of loving exploring romance this year?
I don't think I'm ready to commit yet. I feel like I did just read one that was, you know, in the vein of Jane Austen. Gosh, why am I it's I can't I'm blanking on the name. In Preston Lee. It was
Oh yeah.
oh
Pride and Preston. Was it Pride and Preston?
Pride and Preston Lee, maybe. Oh, that's terrible that I can't remember. And there's something about like the slow burn of like people, you know, saying things and misinterpreting them and stuff that I don't really love. So but it wasn't that I didn't enjoy her story and her writing. It was just a little bit like, okay, just say what you mean. So
Yeah, I'm not a fan of like the miscommunication trope. That can
yeah,
annoy me too. I
yeah,
absolutely understand that. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Miscommunication trope. I like that. I didn't think of it that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm still
Yeah.
figuring it out.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, the miscommunication thing I don't really like. It's just like I never liked like in the 19th century the trope was, you know, people in disguise. It's just like really you couldn't tell that 6 foot 7 person was actually your, you know, Aunt Molly. I don't know. You know, I just don't buy some of those. I think I'm kind of leaning towards liking the we shouldn't be together kind of trope. So, but we'll see how the summer goes. I plan on doing some solid romance reading this summer.
Awesome.
And so I have one that I could share, and it's one that I'm including it because we recently went to the Rip Bodice bookstore in Brooklyn.
Oh, in Brooklyn, okay.
And this is a book I purchased there that's not, I don't think, an actual romance. Not sure. But it is by it's A Dowery of Blood by
Ooh.
S.T. Gibson, sorry. It's hard to read backwards. So this was in their section. And it is a romance. There is a romance, let's put it that way. It's between Dracula and his first wife, who he finds dying on a battlefield, you know, a peasant somewhere in Eastern Europe who's been beaten almost to death. Her family's been slaughtered. And he, you know, turns her into a vampire as the sun is setting on the battlefield. That's as far as I read. I read like the first few pages just to see if I wanted to take it home. And again, it's not listed. It's not, you know, an actual romance, but I'll report back at the end of the summer on how this one goes.
I mean, it does say desire and obsession on the top. So it just might not be an HEA, right?
That's exact. Well, yeah, but isn't that is what a romance novel is, though? It's like you got to have that HEA, and this is, I mean, it is a romance between them, but I think it's also dealing with a lot of violence and interrelational abuse, and you know, I mean, Dracula is not known as being a very nice guy, so
Maybe so.
we'll see. But yeah, so
good uplifting read, Chris.
yes.
Well, I too brought my book that I got at the Ripped Bodice bookstore. I also wanted to show their very sweet bookmarks that they put in your books. And it says "Read Me" on the back, which is super cute. And they have stores in Culver City, California, and Brooklyn. Maybe we'll get to the Culver City, who knows? And I too brought a book that I thought for sure had a romance in it, but both of us ended up in the back of the store where they kind of had these racks that said other things or more books or something. So this is called The Secret Book and Scone Society by Ellery Adams. And
Ooh.
it's first book in a series that's 6 books long, which I didn't know when I bought it. And it's about this town, Miracle Springs, that has a spa and a 5-star restaurant and a bookstore. I think it's called, yeah, Miracle Books. And the owner, people sit down with the owner and kind of tell her their story and maybe their problems. And then she picks a book for them to read based on that. And a gentleman comes to do that and then ends up dead. And so she forms this book and scone society where they solve mysteries. So I think it's a mystery series, but I got it at the romance bookstore thinking that there was a romance in there somewhere. Maybe there is. It doesn't say
Maybe.
anything about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I'm very
Rom-
excited about it. And I
It
guess,
sounds good.
yeah,
Looks good too. The cover is great.
yeah, she has a bunch of different mystery series, which I didn't know when I bought it. One of them is called, I don't think I brought my little cheat sheet, like the Pie Society series. I'm like, oh, count me in. That sounds good.
I know. Reading and food can't go
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Oh gosh.
So Leslie, are you reading anything this weekend or did you finish anything new recently you want to tell us about?
I just finished, it was actually a reread, or now it was a listen. I decided to reread a book, but on audiobook called What I Did for a Duke by Julie Ann Long. It's a historical romance. Julie Ann Long is one of my favorite authors, and this is one of my favorite romance books of all time. And so it was just fun to be able to listen to it where this Duke, he was engaged, but then his fiance ends up being found in bed with this other guy. And so to get back at the guy, he's like, I'm going to ruin the reputation of your sister. And the sister happens to be in love with her friend who's told her he's going to propose to her other girlfriend. And so it becomes this sort of love triangle romance and where he ends up still falling for her, even though his intentions at the beginning weren't great, but it's just beautiful. And I loved it. But I'm going from historical to now paranormal romance over the weekend. I'm reading Truth or Wolf by Anne Marsh that just came out yesterday. It's a werewolf romance, which I really love. What's interesting about this book is it's a paranormal retelling of a contemporary book that was called Truth or Beard by Penny Reid. And I loved, and that's part of her Winston Brothers series. I loved that series. And so and Marsh is now taking that series and rewriting them as paranormal romance books, which I think is really cool. So it's these bearded brothers who live in this small town and get up to all kinds of things. So that's up on my list.
Very
Wow,
cool.
that
That's cool.
sounds really
One of the first romances I read was a werewolf romance, and I wish I could remember the name. It's not coming to me right now. But one of the things I loved about it was when the werewolf is transitioning at night, as the moon is rising, he forgot to open the door. So he's trapped in this room as a wolf because he can't open the doorknob, because it's a turny doorknob. He's like, okay, new werewolf mistake number one.
Right,
or
right.
make sure you get the doors that have the handle that you just
right.
press it down because a wolf can handle that.
Wow. I
Yes.
haven't read enough
Usually their
werewolf
problem
stuff.
is like when they shift back and they don't have any clothes. That's usually,
Yeah.
problem number
Yeah.
two. Yeah.
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 I was gonna say I've not read enough werewolf stuff, but I've seen some movies and I know like that, and they end up somewhere and have to crawl home
Yes.
naked. So
Yeah.
it's interesting, the doorknobs.
Mhm. Oh
Werewolf
gosh,
checklist.
I know. Well, Leslie, I'm gonna check that werewolf one out for sure.
Yeah, that sounds
Absolutely.
great.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm a lover of all romance, whether it's historical, paranormal, contemporary, fantasy, you name it. lots of fun things to explore in the genre, that's for sure.
Which is why people should listen to She Reads Romance. We'll put a link down below so you can find Leslie everywhere, including the book club.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Thank you for stopping by.
Yeah, thanks, Leslie.
Yeah, great talking with you. Enjoy your summer romance books this season.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.